Namaskar, greetings from Cosmic Yoga Studio. Hope everyone is doing well. Firstly, we wish you a very happy International Yoga Day. Let's move on and start today's session. Today, we will be covering introduction about yoga and Tantra concepts. Now let us see what yoga is. The word yoga may be derived from the Sanskrit root verb yuj plus the suffix gya. When yoga is derived as yuj plus gya, it means unification. For example, when sugar and water are mixed together, they become one. Sugar loses its individual identity. This is the real sense of yoga. And yoga has also three major definitions. We will see these one by one. One of them is Yogas Chitta Vritti Nirodha, which means the expression or propensities of the human mind are preliminarily enumerated as 50, and secondarily they are considered as 1000 in number. The mind survives because of these vrittis. If the vrittis become non-existent, the mind also loses its existence. According to Maharishi Patanjali, who gave the above definition, if the vrittis are suspended, if their expressions are withdrawn, and the vrittis become functionless, at that stage, the mind will enter into a state of non-manifestation. The mind will lose its outward expression, and this state will be called yoga. Now, let us see. If the mind ceases to express itself and altogether stops functioning, how can it unify itself with any other object? In the state of functionlessness, the mind is transformed into something crude. At that stage, the mind will become like a desert where there is no flower or fruit. Now, on the other hand, yoga means unification. But here in practical sphere, there is nothing with which the mind can unify itself. Hence, Patanjali's definition of yoga does not seem to be very rational. There is yet another definition of yoga. Sarva Chinta Parityago Nischinto Yoga Uchyate, which means when the mind is absolutely free of thoughts, when the mind is completely thoughtless, that state of mind is called yoga. Now, when a person is sleeping, not even dreaming, in that state of the mind is free from thoughts. Furthermore, when someone becomes unconscious, at that time also the mind remains free from any thought whatsoever. But that is not yoga. The question is, since the mind is not unified with anything, how can this be accepted as a definition of yoga? However, there is yet a third definition, which does seem more reasonable. That is, Samyoga yoga ityukto jivatma paramatmana, which means when the unit consciousness merges itself fully and is finally identified with the Supreme Consciousness, which is Shiva. That is called Yoga. Here, the microcosmic drop merges into the vast ocean of consciousness. The microcosm merges into macrocosm. This state of supreme union or merger is what is called yoga. What is the supreme goal in the life of a spiritual aspirant? To merge the individual existence into Paramapurusha, Paramatma, the ocean of macrocosmic consciousness. This is the real yoga. A person who would endeavor continuously in his or her individual life to attain the supreme entity should know that this yoga is the only way to attain it. There is no doubt about that. Now we will try to understand concept of yoga from the perspective of a mystic. When the aesthetic sense based on the subtle aesthetic science comes to touch a certain standard, it is what is called mysticism. And when this mysticism reaches the pinnacle of human glory or the excellence of human glory, it is called spirituality. Mysticism is the never-ending endeavor to find out the link between the finite and the infinite. It is a never-ending endeavor to find a link between the self and the super-self, or Khud and Khuda. This is called mysticism. It is one of the human wounds that human beings are never satisfied with something finite. They are never satisfied with something limited. In Sanskrit, it is said, Nalpe sukhamasti bhuvanev sukhamasti. This means human thirst cannot be satisfied with something limited. Human hunger cannot be satisfied by something finite. That is, in the quest for the infinite, human beings first come in contact with aesthetic science. Aesthetic science does not always mean to get something pleasant. It may mean to get something troublesome, something embarrassing. It may or may not be something pleasant. Aesthetic science is that which one can express in a subtler way, from subtler to subtler. And when it reaches the subtlest point, the point is the pinnacle of human glory. When human beings started their movement towards the Supreme Being in quest of supreme bliss, they first came in the contact with spirituality. As spirituality is coming in contact with the infinite, that is, infinite comes in contact with the infinite, it is called yoga. Yoga is unit moving in quest of the infinite, the finite moving towards the infinite in a mystic style. In Sanskrit, yoga means addition. For instance, 2 plus 2 is equal to 4. But for a mystic, for an aspirant of mystic goal or mystic desideratum, yoga is not only addition, yoga means unification. What sort of unification? It is just like sugar and water. Say there are 2 plus 2 apples. In the case of addition, there will be 1 apple, then 2, then 3, and then 4 apples. Every apple will maintain its individuality or its identity. The identity of the apples remain unchanged before and after the addition. But in the case of unification, that is in the example of sugar and water, the sugar does not maintain its identity because it is become one with the water. This is unification. In the realm of mysticism, yoga means this type of unification. That is, it is unification like sugar and water and not simply addition like 2 plus 2. This movement for yoga, for the unification of the unit with the Supreme, the finite with the infinite, is a must for each and every human being. The human physical and psychic structure is most suitable for this purpose. Now, yoga is most developed and most valuable expression of human wants. So, it is in the first phase of yoga that one expresses oneself through so many arts and sciences. The final point of all artistic movement and the final point of all branches of science is the Supreme Source, the perennial source of all energies, the supreme seat of all energies. It is Parama Purusha, the supreme entity who is the father of all, the causal matrix of all created beings in this universe, both animate and inanimate. That is why for all people, whether they are intelligent or illiterate, rich or poor, educated or uneducated, the supreme entity must be the goal of life. That is, the supreme entity is the culminating point, the desideratum of all human expressions. When human beings are lacking in the spirit of movement, they degrade themselves from the human status. Now let's see the relationship between yoga and tantra. Now let us see what tantra is and what is the relationship between tantra and yoga. There are a lot of misconceptions around the concept of tantra. We will try to clarify correct concept of tantra. It has been said, Tam jadayat trayet yastu saha tantraha parikirtita. The sound ta is the acoustic root of dullness. So, the science or systematic process that liberates one from the bondages of dullness or lethargy is called Tantra. The word Tra is derived from the Sanskrit root verb Tre plus the. Tra means liberator. So the liberator from ta, that is dullness, is called Tantra. There is yet another definition of Tantra. In Sanskrit, there is a root verb tan, which means to expand. Tanu literally means the growing body of a child. The human body continues to expand up till the age of 39. That is why a young body is called Tanu. Tanu means that which is expanding. An old man's body should not be called Tanu. It should be called Sharir, because an old man's body does not expand. It decays. So Tantra means that which shows the way towards expansion and ultimately liberation. When the unit soul or unit mind transcends the barrier of limitation and in the process becomes infinite, there remains no bondage of finitude. That is the state of liberation. One's existence becomes one with Parama Purusha. Here Tantra and Yoga are in complete agreement. So we have established that the word Tan means expansion. Bharatvarsha is a land which facilitates gradual growth and finally leads to emancipation. In other words, the mind and the soul gradually expand, and the soul becomes one with the universal soul. And in the state of highest expansion, all the 8 fetters and 6 enemies of human mind, that is, all the external and internal enemies of human mind, will cease to exist. And thus, when the microcosms are free from all bondages, they cease to remain as microcosm and becomes one with Shiva, the Supreme Consciousness. In Tantra it is said, Pashabaddhaha bhavet jivaha, Pashamuktaha bhavet shivaha. Those who are bound by the fetters are Jiva, unit consciousness, but one who is free from the fetters is Shiva. So we see that as a practical matter there is no difference between Yoga and Tantra. Yoga is a practical cult. Tantra is also a practical cult. There may be a slight difference in language, but there is no difference in practice. When spiritual aspirants advance towards Paramapurusha by dint of the practice of yoga or tantra, they developed an exclusive devotion towards Parama Purusha. The cult that Sadashiva formulated and introduced into human society to ensure the removal of inertness in the physical, psychic, and spiritual strata of life is called Tantra. Tantra is not at all theoretical. It is essentially practical. And on the basis of practice, its philosophy has evolved. The major portion of the science of institution in the Vedas and on the other hand is purely theoretical. Only a small portion is practical. In Tantra, 99% of the institutional science is practical, and only a very small portion is theoretical. The science of institution in the Veda has already been discussed extensively. Tantric literature like Vedic offers an elaborate treatment of institutional science. Both Veda and Tantra have proclaimed that everything of this manifested universe emanates from Brahma, as the Veda have put it. Anandadhyeva khal vimani bhutani jayante anandena jatani jivanti anandam paryantyabhisham vishanti. Now let us see what this sloka from Veda means. Everything, microcosm or macros, whatever is caused or created, comes from the composer of bliss. And Anandena jatani jivanti, that is, because of the presence of the infinite composer of bliss, each and every created entity wants to remain in this world. That is the only reason for one's longing for more and more life. And Anandam Prayanta Bhishwa Mishanti, that is, finally, each and every entity goes back to that composer of bliss, so that blissful stands. This composer of bliss is the only Satya in the universe. The limbs of Ashtanga Yoga are helpful in achieving the real sense of yoga, that is, unification with the Supreme Consciousness. At the end, I would like to throw some light on the misconceptions around the concept of yoga. If we see deeply, there are a lot of misconceptions around the concept of yoga. Some say doing physical exercise means you are doing yoga. If you have done just asanas, means you are doing yoga. Others say doing some breathing exercise means you are doing yoga. Some say yoga can be done in aerial mode by hanging in the air. Others say this can be done using physical power and term as power yoga, so on and so forth. Do you think by just doing above you are doing real yoga? Doing these exercises will allow unit consciousness to merge into cosmic consciousness? That is a big question. You might have got the clear explanation yourself. That is all we have for today. We have covered all the fundamental concepts of yoga. Hope this session was useful. If you find this video informative, do press the like button and share this video. Last but not the least, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel Cosmic Yoga Studio and press bell icon so that you keep on getting notifications for each new video we upload. Thank you all for joining. Have a wonderful day. Namaskar.